This is the next topic I thought about. You know, I've encountered this quite often, but students that come in and they feel that they're ready to spar right now. Like the very first day, they're ready to spar, or they want to spar, and not even the first day, it could even be the first week, or they feel they know something. They feel that they've learned something. They might feel that they they got in a lot of street fights, so they know how to fight. They trained in another school before, so they know something, and they're ready. And these types of people, to me, they're not truly students of the school. They're more so individuals that might be just looking for a place to test out what they think that they know. And at that point, they're not truly students. It's more like a gym, like a gym mentality, where when you go in the gym, you're not you're not learning from a personal trainer in the gym. You're just going in there to work out, and you might see what other people are doing, and then you might try to mimic them. You might compete with them without them knowing. You might observe to see how much they're doing, and you'll try to do more. And by you doing that, comparing yourself with these other people that are working out in the gym, you're not their student. They're not your student. Essentially, you're competitors. You could be direct competitors, or you could be indirect competitors. But at that moment, there's no teacher and student relationship. You're essentially just trying to use the people around you to serve as a motivation for you to improve upon yourself. So a person that comes in who feels that they're ready to spar right away, they're essentially just trying to test out what they think that they know. And at that moment, it's not that it's necessarily a negative thing, because the sifu or the teacher of the school can have the same desire to test out what he knows, and then he would use this person that comes in as a demo, or like as somebody to practice his techniques on. And then it becomes an agreement between both individuals to engage in this type of sparring to test out what they know. But once again, the person that's engaging, the person that comes in supposedly as a student, is not truly a student. He's not really there to learn what the teacher has to teach, because if he was, he wouldn't be ready to spar, because he wouldn't know anything. But since he already feels that he knows something, then the teacher can't really teach him, because he's not open to learn. He just wants to test out what he thinks he knows. And at that moment, it's like playing a game of chess with somebody who already knows the rules, and he already knows how to play because he's played so many times before. And you meet him for the first time, and you play with them, or you play against them. He's not your student. He's not learning from you. He's essentially trying to, compete with you. And competition is not necessarily always a bad thing, but he's not your student. Or you play basketball, somebody else plays basketball, you never met the person before in your life, you go to the park, and all of a sudden he asks you to play one-on-one. He's not your student. He's just trying to see, he's trying to outperform you with the skills that he's learned up to that point. He might essentially be your competitor. And the teacher himself he also needs to test out his techniques as well. And a lot of times his techniques testing out on his students is not sufficient enough because his students are not developed enough. Because if you have somebody who doesn't know anything about chess and you happen to be a chess master and he becomes your student and you're teaching him everything that he knows, it's going to be very difficult for him to catch up to you where you're at because you've been doing it for your whole life. And so he'll be forever learning with you or forever learning from you. But then when new students come in that don't know that much either, then this student could practice his techniques on the new student so that he could also improve as well. So the student can play with you and he can play with the new student. So when it comes to martial arts, when you've been training for your whole life as a teacher and a student comes in that knows absolutely nothing, you're teaching him some techniques to learn, and he's not going to really be able to help enhance you to take you to the next level because he's your own student. So you're always going to be teaching him, and he has the opportunity to spar with you, and then he also has the opportunity to spar with the new students that also don't know anything, and then he can test out his techniques on the new students as well. But as a teacher, very rarely will you ever be challenged to improve upon your own techniques unless you meet somebody else who is not your student, whom has been also training for his entire life or for most of his life. And then you might test out your techniques on him while he tests out his techniques on you, and you are not his student and he is not your student either. And that is what I've noticed. I've encountered quite a bit of people in my life that train in martial arts, and when people train in something and they feel that they know something, then they're not your students. They are essentially people that you can experiment your techniques on. And while they try to experiment the techniques that they think they know on you. But it's very clear that they are not students. And you might use this individual to have your students test out the techniques on him as well. Essentially it's like, these professional sports. You got basketball team, the Lakers and then the Bulls, they're not on the same team. So you got somebody that's playing for the Lakers, he is not if you're playing for the Bulls, he's not your teammate. He's somebody that you're going to try to outperform. So your teammate is like the student who's a real student. But if he is not your teammate, he is not your student, then you're not going to teach this person, but you're going to basically test out your techniques on this person to sharpen your own techniques. And I think that's something that is very important to understand, especially when you're running a school, is that not everybody that's coming through that door is actually a student. For one, if they don't pay, then that's very clear they're not a student. But if they come in and they're ready to spar right away, chances are this person will not be a student. This person will be somebody that you will test your techniques on, which is completely fine. But there has to be this understanding of what is actually a student and what is not. And even if they do pay, once again, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are truly a student. They may be just trying to learn a few things here and there to try to improve upon their own skill sets while they continue to represent themselves or represent another school of which they have their loyalty towards. And once again, these are not students. So true students are the ones that are very open to learn, and they're humble, naturally humble, not falsely humble, and they don't really arrogantly state that they're ready when they're not. The teacher is the one who decides when they're ready. And they're in the school. They're not just there for the fighting. Learning how to fight is a component of the school, but they're there for everything. They're there for the fitness. They're there for the camaraderie. They're there for the family atmosphere. They're there for the flexibility training. They're there for the meditation training. They're there to help other students progress while they progress. These are true students. But there are people out there that will come in that all they want to do is fight, and that's all they care about, and these are not true students. But once again, it's not that there's no value to these individuals, but they should clearly be understood for what they are. They're individuals there to test your techniques on, and other than that, they don't really serve any other purpose. They're not on your team. They're essentially representing themselves or representing another school, another way, and there just has to be that common understanding. Just like in professional sports, you got your teammates and you got the people that you're competing against or your opponents, and you have to know who's who in order to, as a teacher, in order to preserve your art in the proper way or the right way, to share your art in a very wise, intelligent way. So these are some things that I just wanted to share my reflections on.